Engine repair test, chapters 9 and 10 of automotive engine repair. Okay, now we're going to say to prevent serious engine damage. This is a true-false question. The technician should develop a strict routine that is followed with every oil change. Jeremy.
I'm listening
to prevent serious engine damage. Did you hear the question? The technician should develop a strict routine that's followed with every oil change. Here's the thing. If you're balancing and rotating the tires and you're doing an oil change, do one and then the other. Don't mix and match.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's just really not good. So that is actually a true statement.
No oil in it.
Yeah.
Idiot.
It didn't run long.
It didn't run long.
Excessive blow-by on a worn engine can cause the seals to fail in a relatively short period of time. Now, what does that do? If you get an engine that's got all of the seals blown, you better be finding out why all the seals are blown. We got the contract for a while for Coca-Cola over in Dothan, and I don't know who had been doing the work on them trucks before, but they were bringing these, and they had these Chevy Astro vans and all that stuff that's coming there, and so this one guy, there was one of them Chevy Astro vans, that little 4.3, and it was just leaking everywhere, and so he pan gasket, the timing cover seal and everything. He did valve covers, intake. I mean, he just did the whole shooting match. Put it all back together, and then they threw it to me to run the, check engine light stuff and all that stuff on it. Well, as I was doing my go-over, I found out that the PCV system was totally inoperative, and furthermore, the crankcase vent system was clogged too, because the vacuum for the PCV system came from underneath the throttle body, and it was clogged up with carbon, so there wasn't no vacuum going out there. You ought to hear a vacuum. It's like a hurricane. Shh, the PCV valve, and you didn't have no vacuum there. Furthermore, the other part of it, like I say, was clogged up too. He did not even address that. He fixed all of the oil leaks that were caused by the blow-by and the PCV system not working, but he didn't fix the cause of it. So what happens there is, if you don't fix the cause of it, if it got out of the shop before I caught that, I pulled the throttle body off and cleaned all that crud out from under it, and you got the PCV system working again. Now, you remember what I told you about PCV? If the PCV system's working, the closure hose that's coming off the other side, going to the breather, you got the PCV valve. This is just going to simplify this really strong. You got the valve cover here, and let's say the PCV valve is in there. All right, you got vacuum here. All right, and the other valve cover, or typically it's going to be, a lot of the times you'll see it nowadays where your oil filler tube is, you'll see a little pipe coming off, and it'll be either going into the zip tube between the air cleaner. All right, if you take that one loose, like this right here, let's say that you got that hose and you take it loose from the breather, you put your thumb right here. You got that? You put your thumb right there, you should feel vacuum with the engine idling. And that vacuum will be pulled all the way through the crankcase by the PCV. If you pull that off and you see steam coming out of it, then you ain't got enough PCV flow. You need a PCV valve. You need to fix the vacuum supply for this or something like that. That's what we're talking about there. That's the kind of stuff I'll forget if I don't stop and draw the picture right then, okay? Coolants in production automotive engines should be mixed with water in a 70-30 ratio. 70-30 ratio. Yeah? What do you think? That's false. 50-50, but I will tell you this, don't be fooled by that, because there are some engines that take a 70-30 ratio. Just make sure that you look it up. If you got pure antifreeze in it, it's bad for it, and it'll crack the head and everything else. The three types of coolant vent, straight antifreeze will turn into jelly at about 8 below zero and quit flowing. The three types of coolant fan used are electric, clutch type, and flexible. What?
Flexible. I couldn't find that total insulated thing.
They left one out, guys. They left one out. Well, the flexible fan is the one that the blades will twist and quit pulling so much air when they're spinning fast. See what I'm saying? You've seen those flex fans? They used to put, even if it doesn't have a fan clutch on it really. And the clutch is what I was talking about. This clutch that I was holding in my hand earlier, that's got that bimetal strip on the front of it. That one right there is one of them. That's so you won't rob power from the engine. That's why a lot of them are putting electric fans. Hot rod guys like Wes, they like to put electric fans on there and do away with this fan that's being spun by the belts. And all that. So some of the Crown Victorias have got an electric fan and a clutch fan, but the clutch fan has got almost no resistance at all unless it's absolutely necessary. It's like a has to have that. If there's a really hot air coming through that radiator, being pulled by the electric fan, it'll kick that thing on. Anyway, so number four, if you're going to get the answer right according to the answer key, is true, but I don't like that because there are also hydraulic fans. They are driven, they're driven by the hydraulic system coming off the power steering pump. Got that? You know about which ones are those on?
Diesel.
No.
Car. I don't know. I ain't gonna
Jeeps, some of them have got that.
I was reading
The
one.
Lincoln LS has got those hydraulic coolant
It's
fans.
crap.
I know they went away from, and the front end parts are expensive too, but they went away from that on Lincoln LS.
How's it do
And-
that?
Huh?
Not the pressure off road or something?
They actually had lines going over to this hydraulic motor, and whenever the hydraulic, the little solenoid would open up and let pressure go over, it would spin the fan. You'll see road graders with a fan in the back,
Yeah.
and they'll have a hydraulic motor with hoses going to it driving that fan on them road graders. You might notice that. I mean, whenever you see a piece of equipment driving down the road, if you're like me, you're noticing things about it. Like when you come up behind a road grader, you're creeping anyway. So I'm just looking at little details of that thing. Anyway.
I'm running down the road and looking at other people's car and I can
Huh?
camber and all the casting.
Oh yeah, you start noticing caster and camera being all fouled up. I saw one the other day. I took a picture of it with my camera sitting at a red light. The wheels were like that, and the inside of those tires wore down to the steel. You could see that. You could see the camber like this. It was horrible. The rear camber. A customer comes to the dealership complaining of high oil consumption. You hear me, guys? The customer comes to the dealership complaining of high oil consumption in his vehicle. A technician will check the car for all of the following except what? A, worn valve guides. B, worn valve seals.
Lifters.
C, lifters are not going to make it burn oil. Okay? I mean, they're oil related, but they're not going to cause it to use oil.
That's because of that.
Technician A says using oil dye and a black light is the best method for checking oil leaks.
Yes.
Is that right? Technician B says oil leaks can be discovered visually and that there's no need for dye and a black light.
Hey.
Who's correct on that? A. Now, I also told you before, you can take Dr. Scholl's foot powder and do wonderful things with it. If you just take Dr. Scholl's foot powder and you paint the whole backside of the motor with it, wherever that oil's coming from, it's going to be just as black as it can be coming out of that white foot powder. And the foot powder don't hurt a doggone thing. You can rinse it off. We also fix wind noises. Sometimes you can spray the door seal with Dr. Scholl's foot powder and close the door real gently and open it back up in a place where it didn't wipe the foot powder off where your wind noise is. Bunch of different ways you can do that. People come up with ideas all the time. Necessity is the mother of invention. You heard that before? Okay. Oil consumption is considered excessive if an engine uses more than 1 quart in how many miles?
35.
Yeah, 2,000. But I'm going to tell you something. GM and Ford say it has to be using more than a quart about every 1,000 before they're going to fix it under warranty.
Yeah, that's what my dad does.
Yeah.
He'll use about a quarter of 1,000 miles.
Is that good?
I don't know.
Well, you're one of the
05.
still
What kind of vehicle is it?
Decent one.
Z71? A quarter of 1,000. You see, they won't fix it under warranty unless it's more. I think it's a quart over 900. The GM or Ford one, I can't remember. But it's both in that area. They got to have it burning more oil than that before they're going to do anything about it.
I started drinking it after that.
Yeah.
It'll burn a quart, and then it'd get low, then it'd go off the stick.
Yep.
Within 2 days,
That's because it breaks down so bad whenever it gets low. I mean, whenever an engine is a quart low on oil, the oil breaks down twice as fast as it does if it's got full. 4 quarts. That came from a Ford Motor Company training video. If it's 1 quart low, it breaks down in half the time. Just remember that. I knew one guy that had this restored 64 Chevrolet that he had dialed up and everything, and he said he always ran his oil a half a quart low on purpose. And I never really understood why he did that, but anyway.
What makes it do that?
What?
Burning oil.
Well, where can they all go? I mean, valve stem seals, piston rings, that kind of thing. If the oil scrapers aren't wiping it off the cylinder walls good, it's going to get somebody's going to go in the combustion chamber every time. Then it's just eventually going to go. It can pull it through the PCV system and burn it if the PCV system ain't working right. Another thing it can do if the PCV system's not working right is make it sludge up to where it's got real thick sludge on the inside of it. But there's other things that can make it sludge up too. So that's not the only thing that can make it sludge up. Moisture in there, from blow by. Technician A says low oil pressure can dramatically reduce engine life and should be checked whenever excessive noise is heard. Now, there was a Dodge Caravan, the same one that we did the transmission solenoid on the other day. And that thing was making some really ugly lifter sounding noise because they had run it low on oil. I don't know where the oil went, but the guy brought it to me and said, my wife ran this thing almost completely out of oil and it's making this noise now. And so I said, well, I mean, where did the oil go and how did it get completely out of oil? I don't know, you know. So anyway, we filled it up with oil. We checked the oil pressure. The oil pressure was with master gauge, screwed into the port where the oil sending unit goes, was 70 pounds. Had 70 pounds of oil pressure and it's still been rattling up a storm in the top end. And I says, well, all I can tell you is just drive it and see what you think. I mean, see what happens, you know. And so they drove it and they saw what happened. It came apart. So we've got another engine. But I've still got that engine over there, by the way, that we pulled out. LKQ sold us another motor for it. Technician B says oil pressure should be checked when a gauge or warning light indicates low pressure or before major engine repair.
There you go. Okay.
Anytime, that's C, anytime you're going to go into one very intrusively, it's a good idea to check the oil pressure. Now, I guess you two yahoos are going to have that engine sitting in that Crown Vic today, right?
That's right.
Yeah. What do you like? What do you got to put it? What do you got to do before you put it back in there?
We got to figure out where all the bolts go.
Well, now that should be an issue there. You can do that though. You guys were smart. Y'all took them out.
No, we didn't either.
Excuse me.
Make sure me and Chubb took some of them out. George helped take some of them out.
Y'all can figure it out. Y'all can figure it out. Y'all can make it happen. Number 9. When performing an engine oil pressure test, the engine should be at what operating temperature?
Normal.
Yeah, that's not what. That wasn't too hard of a question, was it? That's number 9. Number 9. Okay. Now, for each pound of pressure added to a cooling system, the boiling point will rise how much? That's an interesting question, isn't it?
2 degrees.
It's actually B. It's 3. 3 degrees for each pound of pressure. So if I've got a 7-pound cap on my Jeep and it's got antifreeze in it, well, there's another factor in it. You take water, you put it in a pan. If I'm heating it up, I put it on the stove and I turn that thing on high and I got a thermometer in it. How hot is that water going to get?
212 degrees.
It's going to stop getting hot at 212 at sea level. In Denver, Colorado, it's like 160 degrees when it starts to boil because air pressure is lower. Okay, if you put it under pressure, it can get hotter. Right?
If you pay attention to water when you boil it.
If you pour antifreeze in that water, it can get hotter without boiling. So antifreeze raises the boiling point, and so does pressure. So that, you don't want it really boiling. What happens when it boils? You get air in there, and it's not really able to absorb heat like it should. So you don't want air in your cooling system.
I have a question.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about water. I have 5 goldfish, and one of them died this morning, or died last night. I woke up with it dead, and it's the biggest one. Yeah, this huge bowl. It's the biggest one. All the little ones, I guess, are breathing right, and the big one run out of oxygen because the little one were stealing it. I don't know what happened, but the big one died.
Yeah. Do you have something agitating the water?
Yeah, me.
No, I'm talking about you got to have bubbles, or there's not going to be enough oxygen in the water for the big fish.
I know. I ain't bought a.
You bought a piece of hose and blew air in there, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I did.
Well, it's got to be going all the time. You can't go. Okay, they got some air for a while.
That's exactly what I do.
Didn't you see my screensaver? How the bubbles are going all the time? That's how that was supposed to work. Put you something in there that's going to pump a little bit of air in there all the time, and your fish will be fine. That's how you do that.
An actual bowl.
What'd you do with the big ones? You give them a funeral, or flush them down the toilet, or what happened there? Like flush them down the toilet, or both?
Yeah, I took a shot glass and picked him out.
Yeah, well, that works pretty good. All right then. We used to have fishes that were jumping out of the aquarium one time. These jump out. Huh? All right. To prevent a potential collapse or implosion of the cooling system components, the cap must release the what? What is implosion?
Implosion is when something sucks in.
That's kind of bomb they dropped on Nagasaki, isn't it? No, I mean, implosion is when the hoses go.
Collapse.
Yeah, so you're going to have, if you ever see collapsed hoses, it means that little valve in the, the little suck down relief valve in the radiator cap is not working.
I've seen something like that.
Because it's got to let something in there.
Vacuum in the system?
Yeah, vacuum. It's got number 12. That's going to be C. Number 13.
Number 11.
Did I miss that? A coolant system has a boiling point of 257 pounds, degrees Fahrenheit. What pound pressure cap is being used?
12.
Number 11.
With the high pound.
Yeah. C, 15 pound. Okay.
15 pounds.
The sensor that informs the PCM about the temperature of the coolant is the ECT. Duh. Engine coolant temperature sensor. Ha ha ha, very funny. When oil pressure is low, the technician should check for correct oil viscosity and oil that is diluted with what?
Water.
Fuel. Not water. What happens, how can you tell if you pull the dipstick, you got some oil on the dipstick right there. You know, an oil, may look clear, may look dark, whatever. How can you look, what can you do with that oil to see if it's got fuel in it?
Smell it. Try to burn
Maybe,
it.
but what if it's just got a little bit of fuel? Huh?
I don't burn it.
Well, you can, but if it doesn't have enough fuel, what you can do, take a paper towel and drip a drop on it and see if stuff runs from the oil. In other words, you'll have a drop of oil and you'll see stuff wicking out of the oil going into the paper towel away from it. That means it's got stuff in there that don't belong. If you just take a regular drop of motor oil that's not contaminated and drop it on a paper towel, it's just going to sit there. You're not going to see stuff wicking into the paper right away. But if you drop anything on that paper and it wicks away, it's fuel, water will do that. Other things that are contaminating that oil will do that. So you got that. You might want to try that, by the way. It doesn't cost anything to do it. Pull the dipstick, drop a piece of oil on it, and see. Michael probably knows about that. All right.
I don't know either, so I don't know that.
Oh, that's right. Is he on his mission trip or what?
Yep.
And you're working hard, ain't you?
Yep.
What you got going on?
I got 2 or 3 alignments today and something else. I don't know what else.
Yeah. Well, 2 or 3 alignments keep you busy all day if you ain't careful. Especially if you got wore out parts on there. All right. A blank gasketed oil filter can cause oil leak and engine damage. If you have ever double gasketed an oil filter, raise your hand.
Never done it.
I've done it once.
I've done it once.
I've done it on a combine one time, where the oil filters were down between the engine and the hopper, and they were pointing down. And it's one of them where you had to put a strap on there with a, screw them off. And I had made some chili that made me sick, and I kind of had a little bit of food poisoning from that. The boss man says, "I don't care if you're sick or not, you're going to change your oil in your combine." Big mistake. Well, anyway, I got up there and double gasketed the oil filter. When I cranked it up, oil went everywhere, shut it off. And I told the other guy, I said, "Tell him, do not start this combine again." I should have disabled it where it wouldn't start without putting oil in it, because I double gasketed oil. I fixed it where it wasn't double gasketed, but it got away. It's just two big oil filters. You screw them off, and I was sick anyway. That was I was like 18, 17 years old, and I screwed it back on there. We were in Montana. I screwed that thing back on there, and it was got the gaskets like they were supposed to be. And then I told him, but the guy didn't ever tell the boss man that. He started that combine motor up and burned it up.
Did it mess it up?
Yeah.
Burned it up.
Locked it up. We had to get a crankshaft from Japan. It was Alice Chalmers. All right, but anyway, that's one of them things. That was enough right there for me to learn never to do that again. But I'm gonna tell you something. You can get lax. I've seen guys that worked at the dealership every day and did oil changes every day on their co-op assignment, and then they would come here and do an oil change real quick and double gasket a filter here when they had never done it at the dealer.
I've done it one time.
Yeah. Did you feel silly?
Yeah.
Kick yourself?
Yeah. Michael was laughing.
He did. Well, it's better that you catch it there than it is. I tell you what, if you screw it on there and it goes on there just right and it don't leak and then it pops it out of there somewhere down the road.
It made a noise like.
Somebody double gasketed the one on my Jeep, and I drove it the entire time until the next oil change before I caught it. Because what it did was it kind of tore the gasket and it was just sticking out, the curled up thing sticking out. Which is kind of stupid, because if you just open the hood, you can look at the oil filter, and that's moving. But anyway, I saw that, and I called it to the attention of the guy. I said, "You remember when you did this last time?" And he was like, "Oh no!" But I can't believe he didn't get it. He didn't understand. I must have been working in the dark. We get in trouble working in the dark, guys. We had a drop light. You know what I mean? Remember the stories I'm telling you about people working in the dark? They do. They work in the dark. They don't want to put no drop light over there. And I even got these nice bounce lights that you can drop without breaking a bulb. We had to put a single bulb in, so I put the bounce lights up. Number 16. An oil pressure relief valve that's stuck in the blank position can cause high oil pressure. It can also, stuck closed, it can also blow the oil filter off the car. Now,
Open/close what?
huh?
What's that?
Yeah, that's closed. Stuck closed. There was a guy that I was talking to one time, and he said, "I've rebuilt the engine." He said, "The engine seized up, and I put a crank kit in it and rebuilt it." And he says, and I made sure it was full of oil and everything, and I even primed it by spinning the oil, pump and all that sort of stuff. And he says, and I cranked it up, and it didn't have oil pressure, and it messed it up again. And I said, well, he's looking at the relief valve. He said, well, I put a new oil pump on it. I said, I know, but that ain't where the relief valve is on this one.
Where was it?
It's in the timing cover. And I says, now look. So we took the timing cover, flipped it over, and the relief valve was stuck, open. So he had no oil pressure because his relief valve stuck open. You see, he put an oil pump on it, and he figured since I put an oil pump on it, the relief valve was built. But you better know where that relief valve is, y'all. You know what I mean? That is on them Toyota Camrys. You know what I'm saying? The relief valve is somewhere else. You see? So be really particular about that. That separates the people that don't make big mistakes from the ones that do. Of course, starting an engine with no oil in it is a big mistake too. So anyway,
Sean.
Okay. Yeah, a blank changes electrical resistance proportionally with temperature. A blank. What's the electronic component that changes electrical resistance proportionally with temperature? List, define, explain. Thermistor. Most coolants are made from a base of what? What?
Propylene.
Ethylene glycol. Ethylene glycol. Now there's polyethylene glycol, which is not exactly the same thing.
Is that the yellow one?
No, the yellow one is propylene glycol, and propylene glycol you find it in food stuff, and it's not poison at all. Now that doesn't mean you can drink antifreeze, but this Mio stuff that you squirt in the water, it's got propylene glycol in it. All right, I did some research on that. I went on the internet. Propylene glycol bad for you, and everything I read says no. They even tried to feed a bunch of it to rats. It didn't even hurt them. Well, propylene glycol is not bad, but now antifreeze has got other stuff in it besides propylene glycol. So don't say, "Hey, I can drink some orange antifreeze." You know, that's just stupid. You know, because it's got stuff that's formulated in there to keep the metal from corroding and other things. So you can't drink antifreeze. Don't ever drink antifreeze. Yeah.
How do you spell ethylene?
Ethyhlene. Ethyhlene.
I think its primary uses are as a preservative and a sweetener.
Yeah, I believe you're right. 19. The New Life Extended EG coolants use what coolant and temperature? Oat.
Like
Organic acid technology.
honey of oats.
Yeah, that's what that is.
What was 17?
17 was thermistor. 20. For best results, the technician should use what kind of water in a cooling system? Distilled water. Does anybody here do that? No, we don't. We just put tap water in it. Have you noticed, though, listen to this, and pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. Have you noticed the chalky crud that appears on the stainless steel water cooler?
Yes.
That's the minerals and stuff in it.
Yeah, there's minerals and stuff in the water. That actually gets into your motor and causes issues. You know, that chalky stuff where you put tap water in there.
What's the difference between distilled water and regular water?
Distilled water. You know how you distill? You know how you what distilling something does? You know how you distill it?
Purifying it.
I mean, how do you distill it? If I was going to distill some water, I could distill water right here in a shop. How would I do it?
Sit in a bucket and leave it alone.
Put it in a bucket and leave it alone. That means it's still. That's what he's talking about. Okay. When they distill water, basically, watch this. You ever make moonshine? Okay, look.
No.
No.
Watch this.
Knew what it was.
I've got a tank. I've got a bucket right here. I'm gonna put some water in it, right? And right here, I'm gonna put a hose.
That's awesome.
It's coming up here. It's like a tube. All right. And over here, I've got a bucket that tube's going into. I'm going to boil this water.
You get the vapors off of it.
And the vapor goes through here. And all you get over here is nice clean water with no minerals or no hard stuff in it. Now, I will tell you that chemicals will distill along with the water, like alcohol and other things like that will. But I'm talking about or any other chemical, you know. Well, but anything that's got it's heavier than the water. As that water boils, and it all boils dry, you're going to see all kind of crud caked in the bottom that's not in this water that was in the water when it started out. That's what distilling is all about.
You turn salt water into regular water that way, can't you?
You can do that. You can get rid of the heavy elements to get rid of the heavy elements in the water. But distilled water doesn't really taste all that good either. You know what I'm saying? If you ever drink it, it's okay, but it's sort of sharp.
I was told that you could actually leave water out for 24 hours and take all chlorine.
The chlorine will go away, but other things won't. Like the stuff that makes the crud on your water fountain, you know, the chalky stuff that you got to chisel off of there. You know, the CLR, lime, calcium, those kind of things, and all that stuff is still in the water unless you've distilled it. So you don't want to pour that in your radiator, although most of us, you know, when you look at the water, you say, oh, it looks pretty clear to me, so you put it on in there. I mean, I do that too. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm not holier than thou. I'm after the first thing, 4-car garage, everybody else is. Okay, now right here, actually, I don't have a 4-car garage. We got a 1-car garage. 11 and 12. We're going to go through this pretty quick. Engine repair is good. It is our friend. Ain't that right? Okay, engine repair test 11 and 12.